welcome to another edition of Grindhouse Purgatory, and it's always 420 at my house. Gotta ask yourself a question, or I can ask myself a question, being that, I've seen a lot of this shit. How many films from the 70s and the 80s still pack the wallop today that they did back then? Well, back in 1977, it was after the Great Weed Famine of 76, because in 1976 that was a bicentennial, and you couldn't beg, borrow, or steal a fucking nickel bag of fucking weed in the New York City area. That's how tight our security was back then. Funny how times have changed. But yeah, that's how tight it was. You couldn't get weed at all. Matter of fact, the only thing that was still floating around was hashish. And I developed a fucking certain hatred for hashish because I was smoking it every night. But I digress. Anyway, we're walking around, I guess we were at Club 44, and I came up on 7th Avenue. We're walking down 7th Avenue towards 42nd Street, and there was this huge mock-up on one of the theaters. I think it was the Rialto. And it's this creepy-looking guy, and the catchphrase or catchline or tagline was, "More horrifying than freaks." And the film was The Hills Have Eyes. So, of course, us seeing this, we have to check this thing out. And, of course, unless you're from another planet, you've probably seen the movie. And it's a tale of inbred cannibals who waylay a white bread family out in the Nevada desert near the atomic testing sites. Seems that one offspring of a certain old prospector desert rat, played by John Stedman, sort of mutated and is basically doing weird fucking shit out there, waylaying travelers and the like. Honestly, the film scared the fuck out of us. We were scared shitless. The Blu-ray came out by Arrow, I guess a couple of years ago, and I had it sitting on the shelf, and a few nights ago I said, well, let me see what this is going to do to me. And I'll tell you, it still scared the shit out of me. Still had the hair on the back of my neck standing straight up, because honestly, that was probably the best film Wes Craven ever did. I'm sure that'll start some arguments here and there, but the film was definitely spot on, scary fucking shit, terrifying. And Michael Berryman was Pluto, as we all know, and Michael Berryman is so far away from his characterizations on screen. Super nice guy. Wonderful person. Met him a lot of times, hung out with him a lot of conventions, shared herbs with him, as a matter of fact. Just a great guy. D. Wallace Stone, the same type of person. Really sweetheart. Unfortunately, I think the guy who played the main crazy person, Jupiter, was James Whitworth. And he appeared in, I think, Planet of the Dinosaurs, and as a phone repairman in The Candy Snatchers. But unfortunately, I think he died in his early 50s from a heart attack. So he didn't hang around too long. But anyway, as crazy and as scary as The Hills Have Eyes was, somebody decided to make a sequel, The Hills Have Eyes 2, and the Pluto character, who basically had his throat ripped out by a dog in the first film, somehow survived to the second film. Michael Berryman told me about this film, that he was basically, they cast a bunch of soap opera stars, and he was basically roughing them up. Starred John Bloom as the big bad guy in this. He was a brother to Jupiter, I guess. I don't know what the fuck his name was, but honestly, I saw that film once. I thought it sucked and never bothered to see it again. The staying power of that film, however, was proven when Bob Murawski from Grindhouse Releasing sent me a picture of pieces co-billed with The Hills Have Eyes. Originally, when he showed me the picture, I thought it was the Liberty, but it wasn't. It was the Rialto. And he had asked me why they would pair The Hills Have Eyes with Pieces. Well, simple. Pieces came out in '82. Hills came out in '77. Nobody knew what the fuck Pieces was. I mean, it promised a lot on the posters. You don't have to go to Texas to see a Chainsaw Massacre or something to that effect. But, okay, let's just go by the premise that Pieces was going to suck. But rather than disappoint the rowdy crowds on 42nd Street, everybody knew The Hills Have Eyes, and The Hills Have Eyes would be like, okay, this one sucked, but hey, The Hills Have Eyes is fucking cool. Well, the reality was Pieces really didn't suck. It was pretty good. So there you had, a nice combo with that stuff. Of course, they had to remake The Hills Have Eyes, and they did it with a very extreme version, which actually, I liked it. It was over-the-top violent. It was nasty. It kept the true spirited original in there, but then again, they had to make a fucking sequel. And the sequel played out like a shitty sci-fi cable movie. So it wasn't all that good. But when you think of it, like I said, how many movies back from that era can still basically scare you? And I don't think it's just me, because I don't scare that easily, but, just watching that for, I don't know how many times I've seen it, quite a few times. But just the fact that it still had that type of impact, on me, and still basically scared me, just says a lot about, the film in itself, that it just, held up for so many years. I don't know how, 77, 87, 97, 2000, over 40 years. The film's over 40 years old and still has the power to scare the shit out of you. Not too many other films do that. But, well, let me digress a little bit, since we're talking about New York and walking around in there. I guess it was, I was seeing this chick for a while, and she wasn't into like what I was into, so to speak, as far as grindhouse type things. But she did like vampire movies. I think she liked the Jean Rollins type of thing. So there was a film called Vampires, spelled with a Y, that was playing in one of the artier theaters, one of these art house type theaters. It might have been the Thalia, I'm not sure. But she points this out. Let's go see a real good vampire movie, not this sleazy crap that you bring me to, yada, yada, yada. All right, well, we go see Vampires. Not sure of the year, maybe, had to be early 70s. But, all right, it opens up with two hot chicks in bed, obviously in fragrant delecto, and a male, unseen except for a gun in the back of his head, walks in and basically empties a Walther P-38 into them. Blood spurts all over the place. They're dead. Now we segue to one of them walking down this dirt road and hitchhiking, and the other one watching from behind a tree for some reason. Well, all this is noticed by this young couple who come in with a motorhome, and they're going to spend a few days there. Well, there's a rainstorm that night, and there's an abandoned castle that they're near, and a scream wakes the woman up. She goes to the window with the camper in a hand, slaps on the camper, which I think this was stolen for Count Yorga, that scene, but scared the shit out of her. She wakes up her husband, who goes out there and finds nothing. In the meantime, the next day we flash back to a horrible car wreck not far from there, with a semi-nude male body bloodied all over in the front seat. So this other guy is driving along, and he picks up the girl and goes back to the castle. Now, these two girls, they're vampires of a sort, but they're not the fanged vampires. And all this is making my date a little queasy, because this is coming off like a softcore porn movie, where she seduces this new guy, gets him in bed, and he wakes up to have a huge slash across his arm. And he sees blood on the thing, and he can't find her, and he's getting all upset. Then he goes to the camper and knocks on the door saying he's hurt, and they patch up his thing, and he goes back to the castle for some reason, sleeps in his car, and this other car pulls up with, her name's Fran, the girl he was with, this other blonde girl, and this guy. And they say, oh, here's my friend, this and that and the other thing. So they go in and the seduction starts again. The guys get fed the wine. They go upstairs. Well, they're making out. The sex scenes are pretty explicit. There's no real penetration, but they're pretty close to it. And, of course, she opens the cut on the guy's arm and starts drinking it. Well, then she goes out in the hall and finds the other blonde covered with blood, and they go into this room where this guy's like laying in bed, all cut up, blood spurting all over the place. Fran grabs a dagger, shoves it in his back, and they start sucking all his blood out. Then they sort of drag him out, put him in a car, and the same setup, a horrible fucking tragic car accident with blood all over the place. Well, the guy gets up, he leaves, he drives by, and he sees this wreck. Now he knows something's up. And the blonde girl is telling Fran, stop playing around and kill him. They're in a shower washing off all the blood and stuff in an erotic scene. So now they run into the woman who is in the camper who's painting, and Fran says to her, now I know who you are, and walks away, which sort of freaks the woman out. So there's more crap going on because the one guy goes back to the castle. He knows there's something fucked up, and they bring another guy back. And he's up in his room yelling, and they say, oh, my boyfriend's drunk, I got to go up and take care of him. They go back to the whole suck the arm shit again, while the blonde takes the one down into the basement, gets him drunk. Fran comes down, and they knife the guy, and again, drain all his blood, and whatever. So something else is going on where the girl in the trailer finds her way into the house and is checking things out. And they decide something's going on, something's amiss, let's get the hell out of here. So her husband goes out to start the vehicle and has his throat slashed by one of the girls, and of course they drink his blood. She goes out, finds all the blood splattered all over the place. She gets dragged back to the castle. They set her up where basically Fran cuts her fucking throat, and they cut away from that. They keep saying, it's daytime, it's daytime, it's daytime. And you keep seeing them like go through a graveyard and sort of like, you never know exactly where they go. But the guy who they've been draining sort of gets away, and as he drives out, he finds out that the castle has been sold, and they think he's a drunken bum sitting there, and how they're going to renovate this thing. But you see the two girls, played by Marianne Morris and Anulka, go like through the graveyard and sort of fade away in the morning mists. Even though my companion was really fucking put out by the whole nudity and the gore and the bloodshed and shit like that, I thought it was a fucking cool movie. I really did. And I revisited it again last night because I hadn't seen it in a couple of years, and I just got the Blu-ray. But again, this was one of those things, shot in England, directed by a Spanish director. They interviewed both of the girls on the Blu-ray. I don't know how old they are, but they still look good. And, they claim they became very close during the filming. Well, when you got your face buried in somebody's you-know-what, I would think you would become close. So, yeah, it's a really fucking cool, atmospheric, spooky, gory, and scary fucking movie. And it just has that, like, weird ethereal type thing where they just like walk away, they're going through the cemetery, and all of a sudden they're gone. I mean, there is one scene where when that woman from the trailer goes into the thing, she finds them sleeping in the basement. So obviously they can't be out in the daylight. This is one of those things where they didn't leave in time after they killed one of the guys. I mean, I jump all over with this stuff sometimes because scenes just pop into my mind. But yeah, as far as, it may be on Tubi, it's available from Blue Underground on Blu-ray and DVD, so yeah, it's definitely fucking worth a look. And I think I broke up with that chick right after that because she felt slighted that when she actually tried to get me to go see something that she thought was appropriate, it turned out to be the same old shit for me. So again, well, we're 24 hours to go. Trump should be sedated. Only another a bunch of hours of this nonsense, and then that fucker's gone for good. And I shouldn't get political on this, but man, this has been one fucked up 4 fucking years. So we're still dealing with COVID. Maybe the next regime can fucking fix this. I certainly hope so, because not that I mind, doing this, but be nice kind of go out and see some fucking people for a change instead of just clicking shit on the internet. So thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. If you need to pick up anything from me, Grindhouse Purgatory 18's in the works. All the back issues are available. Email me at grindhousepurgatory@gmail.com. And until then, stay safe, mask up, and we'll see you on the flip side.